Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is James Cullen. I am the Lake Stevens campus pastor, and I'm so thankful that you guys are about to join us as we watch this service together. We believe that God has a message especially for you. Every single time He speaks, there is something that plants into your heart, and I believe that if you open your heart right now, He's going to speak directly to you. If this is your first time watching, you are new or new-ish, we'd love to know more about you. If you text WELCOME to the number on the screen that you're about to see, you're gonna get a little gift from us and a little bit of information and intro into who we are, and we'd love to connect with you. The second part is if you've been watching for a while and you've been thinking, I really wanna connect more with what Gold Creek is doing, text CONNECT to that same number and we will get you plugged into one of our life groups, maybe a serve team, some place for you to connect and be a part of this body together. Lastly, we just want to again thank you so much for taking some time to spend with us this moment as we watch what God is doing here in our community. Now let's watch the service together. Check. Am I on? Here we go. Happy New Year's, everyone. Yes, that's right. Our first in-person service of the year. Very exciting, 2023. It's going to be awesome. And to talk about how awesome it is, I've comprised my top 10 predictions for 2023. And I wanted to share those with you because they're awesome. So here we go. The first one, I'm going to count down from 10 and go down. Number 10, I believe that this year I will successfully complete the 5K donut run. If you don't know what that is, there are 5 donut shops in Everett, all around 5K apart in a circle, and I'm going to stop at each one and have a donut on that 5K run without throwing up, because I hate throwing up. So there you go. That's a big goal. That's a big goal. Next, number 9, Burger King, White Castle, and Dairy Queen will start a kingdom to rule the fast food world. I believe that will happen this year. Do you guys notice that? Burger King, White Castle, Dairy Queen, they're all very castle-y. You guys get that? I guess that's not as good in my head. Okay, Paul Adams, his Good Morning Lake Stevens will get longer each week until one service will just be him doing that. Daylight savings will end this year. That's a 50-50 though, you guys know that. Prediction number 6, we will stay in one place this year. Whew, that'd be awesome. Number 5, the donut will be universally recognized as a health food, to piggyback on Paul's idea and sign. Number 4, Indiana Jones returns with movie number 5, and it's going to be the best one yet. That's right. You guys knew that? That's coming out this year? Indiana Jones 5? Isn't that crazy? I didn't know that they were still doing those. Number 3, a Chick-fil-A and a Chipotle is rumored to be built in Lake Stevens. I know. Isn't that crazy? I know. You never have to go south of the trestle ever again. Number 2, this will be a transcendent year of growth for our campus. There we go. And number 1, God's going to do some amazing work here. So those are my predictions for 2023. I think it's going to be an awesome year. I'm excited for it. It's a fresh start. We always get excited around this time of year, right? Well, we also know that we live in a world of chaos. So our series today is called Holy Shift, and I'm going to try really hard not to say that word incorrectly for the next 4 weeks. Especially during the live one, maybe the second service that I don't do live, I might. But this one, I'm going to be very careful how I pronounce these words, so much so that it's going to be maybe even a little awkward of how slowly I do it. But wisdom in a world full of chaos. We're going to be going through the book of Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom that Solomon adds to our daily living. And I believe that wisdom is application of knowledge. and that how you apply this will shift the way that you begin to think, and then your actions will eventually begin to shift as well too. So let's dive into Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. It says this: "These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. The purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise." Verse 3, "Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair." So what is the purpose of Proverbs? He just kind of outlined all of these things. There are four main themes that I'll get to in a second, but the background of Proverbs I thought was fascinating. I just thought it was just him putting down a bunch of knowledge for his kids and the future of the Israelites. It is actually even further and deeper than that. He is adding practical insights. It's less about the power of God and the majesty of God, and it's more about how real God is, and if you rely on it and use his wisdom and insight into daily living, it changes everything. I didn't know this. I thought it was just him and one other person, but there are at least 4 authors that contributed to the book of Proverbs. It's not just him. And at the time, there was this huge movement about wisdom writing. Solomon's actually not the first person to write a book of wisdom. He's not. I thought, him being the wisest person in all the land, he was the one that originated it. But this was the cultural it thing to do. There were other people that, in fact, some of his writings pattern and some of his writings that he put down are very similar to some of the other writings that you will see in Egyptian writings, also through the Babylonian Empire and those kinds of places. And it makes sense because he invited them to share their wisdom into his kingdom. He invited them to have dinner with him, and they would share conversations, and I'm sure there were moments of wisdom that was dropped, and he's like, "Wow, that's good, I'm going to write that down." And he did. And that's not a bad thing. That's good to take what other people have done before you and say, "This is wise, I'm going to pass this on." That's smart. So he took writings from different people, like, I can't say their names in Egyptian, but it's a Menemopi, instructions of Anai, Sharuppak, the Council of Wisdom. There's all of these different people that he borrowed from, and that's, again, not a bad thing, because wisdom is wisdom. But the 4 themes that he really kind of focuses on for the entire book, one is that it offers wisdom. He says that right up front. 2 is that it gives instruction. The 3rd thing is that it helps us understand our purpose. And 4, it provides direction for integrity-filled lives. This is why he wrote this. It was not just for his kids. It was for future generations of Israelites and eventually Gentiles. And he wrote this for us today. So let's look at what Proverbs has to say. Chapter 3, we're going to skip chapter 2, not because it's not good, but there's some good stuff here in chapter 3 that I want to spend some time in. Verse 5, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." The first thing that Solomon is helping us with when we are talking about finding wisdom in a world full of chaos, when we are talking about how do we connect with God better, the first thing that he says is to completely trust in God. What happens when you split your attention? When you split your love, when you split your heart, your desires, then you only get to put in partial effort into these places. You're not giving your best. At the very least, you're probably giving something that doesn't even really properly represent you. My friend Kevin has a detailing business. If he had to wash 10 cars at the same time in 2 hours, those 10 cars would not be washed very well. But if he was able to focus on one car for 2 hours, he would do some major cleaning damage on that car. If I give 50% to God and 50% to my job, or give God 4% and give the other 96% to every other area of my life, is that really what God wants from us? Especially in light of this verse that we just read. All our heart. I used to do these training exercises when I was in college. I ran track and field, and I was a jumper, long and triple, and we would do these training exercises where if you hesitated even a little bit, just even a smidge, if you were like, I'm not sure I'm going to make it, or I'm going to be able to clear this, you would fail. You would eat dirt every single time. It was completely regulated in that sense, where it didn't matter. As long as if you hesitated, you weren't going to clear this thing. And what it was it was this kind of obstacle course that our coach created where you're jumping over hurdles and you're jumping over these big boxes and you're jumping past sand and you're doing this circuit thing over and over again, and you do it with zero rest, and you do it over and over until you're basically throwing up. And his thing was always, well, as soon as someone throws up, we'll take a break. So we always pick somebody. After the second one, just do that and we'll be good. But then he caught on to that and he's like, well, now it's a minimum of 5. And I remember doing these things, and it was the worst. Because one, you were so tired, but two, it was guaranteed that at least one time you were going to fall over these hurdles and just face plant into the ground. It was going to happen. There's no matter what. And what was awesome was because we were mean kids, and when other sports groups would come and train with us, because a lot of times we do cross training, and the basketball team would come and they'd be like, hey, we want to work on our conditioning and agility, so can we work out with you? And the coach would be like, sure, or the swim team or whatever it was, and they would come and work out with us. We always picked this exercise to do with them because we were terrible, mean kids. That's why. And we knew if we had this much trouble in it, there is no way they're going to make it. It didn't matter if it was the girls' volleyball team. We're like, let's do this exercise. Let's see how many of them we can get to fall. We're terrible people. I know, I'm telling you that right now. And sure enough, we would do these exercises, and the most athletic, full scholarship, super, super high energy students would come, and they would get the first way through the course. They'd get through the course the first time, and then the second time, because you remember, we got to keep doing it over and over again. All of a sudden, you could start to see the hesitation in their eyes, like, I'm tired, I don't know if I'm going to make this. And they would still attempt the jump, and of course, their legs would catch and just face plant. They'd come up, there's grass all over their face. We're all laughing because we've been there, and we're mean. And I remember this thinking, that was terrible. Why did we think this was a good idea? But what the coach was teaching us at the time was that whenever we do any kind of exercise, and he was training us for track meets and actual days of competition, he says, you cannot hesitate. If you're throwing something, if you're running, if you're jumping, and you hesitate, you are not going to give your best. And he was teaching us not to do, even when you're tired, to give your best. God desperately wants to be close to us. He wants our best. And anything in front of God, anything that causes you to hesitate and say, I'm not sure about this, money, relationships, circumstances, jobs, anything that keeps you from giving your best, that's what God is asking you to put down. But see, we don't have to walk alone. We don't. Why not let God walk with us? It continues in that verse, in verse 6, it says, in all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. The second thing that Solomon is advising here, he says to recognize God's wisdom over the world's direction. He'll show us the next step. If you didn't know something about me, I get lost very easily. I do. I have a very poor sense of direction. I have no idea where north is right now. Think it's that way. Am I kind of close? Oh, yeah, I got it this time. Well, I had a 25% chance of making it, so let's do this, right? But I have a terrible sense of directions. I'm really good at observation. I notice what people are doing, and I notice my surroundings, and I know when people are behind me and those kinds of things. But for some reason, when I'm going places, I turn that off. I don't know why. It takes me at least 4 times of going to your house or to a particular place before I'm like, oh, I know where that is. At least 4. Sometimes more. And it got worse when my phone got GPS. Because now I'm not paying attention to the road. I'm listening to the little voice, turn right here. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where here is, but I'm turning right. So I've gotten worse at this. My sense of direction is terrible. I think north is up. It's not, right? There was one time, and I've been, again, there's places that I've been a bazillion times that I still get lost. One of my favorite places to go here in Washington is Heather Lake. I've been to Lake 22. I've been to a lot of different things. Been to Rattlesnake. But Heather Lake is still by far one of my favorite spots. I don't know why. It just is. And I've been there a bazillion times. I've been going there since I moved here because you search best places to go in Washington, you check them all out, and I've been at least every 2 or 3 times every single year. And every single time, I still get lost. I do. Because, one tree looks the same as the other. There's no signs up there. It's not like there's this road sign that says, keep going. There's these little tiny wooden ones that if you're not careful, a bush will grow in front of. There was one time I was taking Kevin up there for the first time, and he trusted me because he was dumb. And I'm walking up to Heather Lake, and we're just talking and having a good time, and we get to this section where we can go left or right. Now, logic says to go left because it was going up, and we knew that it was an elevation because the right path went down, and we're like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you go down? We need to go up. So we both logically said, let's go left. And as we're going left, we get about a quarter of a mile, half mile-ish up this thing. All of a sudden, the road ends, and it's just trees that fell over. And we're like, wow, do you think we're still going the right way? He's like, I don't know. I've never been here. I'm like, that's true. So we're standing there, and I'm like, I don't think this is right. Because there's supposed to be rocks and steps and stuff, and we haven't hit any of that. So rather than just backtracking, we decide to do what is the wisest thing to do, which is to continue to push forward. And not just push forward, we decided to go off the trail and just head in the direction that we're supposed to be going. Again, he just trusts me. It's because, he likes me. And we're just going, and all of a sudden, we're sinking into the ground, and the trail is completely gone at this point. And so we're like, let's just go back down. We'll find the trail eventually. This is getting worse and worse, right? We were about to be one of those stories. 2 idiots were airlifted out today. We were about to be these guys. And we're making our way down, and we're doing the sideways shuffle because the ground would collapse because there's like a mock layer of debris that you step through, and you just go straight to the ground. And we're slowly getting our way back down, and he's like, is this the right way? I'm like, I don't know. And so we're just going, and eventually we make our way back to the starting point of the fork in the road. And this time, we decided to go left again. No, I'm just kidding. We went right. And sure enough, soon as we went down and around, it went back up. And we're like, we lost like an hour and a half because we went the wrong way. Because I got lost. I got us both lost. And Kevin trusted me to show him the next step, which eventually I did. I just took him down the scenic route, right? So I showed him the Washington way. But sometimes the world's direction will seem like the best choice. They'll say things like, it's all about you. Take care of your needs. You deserve it. And those, they seem like they make sense. And in kind of a smaller sense, absolutely, because you need to be healthy. You need to be mentally and physically healthy. I get that. But I don't believe that that's the same message that what God is trying to tell us. When he says, I want you to be at your best, I don't think that he is saying you need to be very selfish and make sure you take care of your own needs first, and then after you've taken care of your needs, if there's an abundance of energy or time, then you can take care of the people's needs around you. I don't read that anywhere in Scripture. And when I think about this concept of choosing God's wisdom, we need to find a way where we can be healthy without being selfish. How do we do that? It starts with following God's wisdom. He shows us the path that we can take. He shows us how to be selfless. He instructs us in what things that we should avoid. And for the next 3 weeks, or I guess 3.5 because we're not quite done here yet, we're going to look at some of the other types of wisdom that Solomon, through the inspiration of God, is giving us. I love this when he says, in all my ways, right? Not part of my ways, not half of your ways, not 99% of your ways. All your ways submit to him. Then you'll be free to be the best version of yourself. It says in the next verse 7, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. I know that shun's kind of an old school word. But don't embrace evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Don't let pride overtake your trust. That's Solomon right here telling us this. Pride says it's all about me. I know what's best. That's what pride says. I was reading the study that Harvard did on the science of trust. I didn't know there was such a big science on trust. But some of the interesting things that they did is had different kinds of control groups, and they had them give money to people they trusted versus people they didn't trust, and they kind of measured their dopamine levels and all these other crazy things. But some of the things that they found from this study, after doing this for a number of years, is that people with low trust compared to people with low trust in companies, people that work at high trust companies, those that they just believe the company is looking out for me and they want my best interests and they're going to take care of me. So we're talking about these people that trust their company. They are 74% less stressed at work. That's huge. 74%. 106% more energy at work, which I'm not even sure how that's possible. How do you go 6% higher than what you're capable of? But we'll let that one work itself out. It was just a math thing, I'm sure. 50% had higher production, 13% fewer sick days, 76% more of them were fully engaged with their coworkers, and 29% were more satisfied with their lives with 40% less burnout. So just that little trust in my company decreased in them some health issues. Interesting. High stress is an oxytocin inhibitor. Oxytocin is what helps you process trust. So when you are stressed, you trust less. Interesting correlation. When you are stressed out, you do not interact with others effectively because you don't have that oxytocin going in your brain saying they're okay. Fascinating stuff. They also discovered that oxytocin increases a person's empathy, which means that when you are in a social situation and you're able to feel empathy towards whatever is happening, that increases your connection to that person and deepens the relationship. Crazy. We just got scienced. That means that self-reliance equals a lack of trust. That means that pride equals a lack of trust. By definition, pride says that we are right, we don't need help. That's what it says. Pride says that you don't have what I need. Pride says that I can do it myself. And this can be said to other people or to God. I know I've said this to God many times. God, I got this. I don't need your help on this. No. I've done that. One of my best friends in college was a guy that I initially did not like. And I'm sure you all have examples where you meet someone for the first time and you're like, dude, that dude's a hoser. I don't want anything to do with him. Maybe that was your impression of me, and that's okay. But we have these periodically through our lives. Well, this guy in particular, man, and especially back then, I used to keep a list. I know, I'm such a petty person. And I used to keep a list of your dead to me list. Sometimes it was physically written out, and sometimes it was just mental. But he was on that list. He just rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, he's dead to me. I don't want anything to do with him. I don't want to be friends with him. He's a jerk. You're dead to me. And it did not matter what happened after that. He could have saved my life, and I'd be like, you're still dead to me. You know, I'm petty. I'm a terrible person. But what was awesome was that my roommate was not a prideful person like I was. He was not a prideful person, and even though he had the same interaction that I did with him, because we were all in like a group of like 6 people, and we all had the same interaction, he did not let that interaction stop him. He did not let his pride be the reason why he didn't start hanging out with him. So what he did was he started hanging out with him, and he got to know him, and he's like, this dude's awesome. Then he started inviting him into our friends group, and I was like, you want to get on the list too? You better knock this off. And he started bringing him to our friend group, and all of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, actually, he's actually pretty awesome. What happened that first time? He's like, I don't know. And we started spending more and more time together, and I befriended him, and we brought him into the circle, and he ended up being one of the most loyal, fun, important people of my life. None of that would have been experienced if I had continued to let my pride say, nope, he is not worth it. That's what happens when we let pride drive our actions. We miss out on opportunities. We miss out on moments for God to do something through us, for God to do something for us, and for God to do something in our lives that we're like, holy cow, God, you're amazing. Pride will be the inhibitor of that. But the question is, do you trust him? Do you trust God enough, or does your pride say, I don't need God? God is not important. I've got everything figured out. I'm good. See, when we start saying stuff like that, that means that we have now blocked our opportunities, that God is going to do something, say something, bring people in our lives, or use us to speak into others. The last point I want to make is driven off of Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. What Solomon is saying, trust God with your first and best. This was a practical way that Solomon recognized. This is a practical way that Solomon could say, you know what? I've been sharing with you wisdom. I've been sharing with you insight into how to be closer to God. You want to prove that you want to be closer to God? Here it is. Physically, you can do this. Give God your best. Give God your first. Put your money where your mouth is. And that's what he's doing. The word honor right here that he used in that scripture, in its origin, in the root word of that word honor in Hebrew, is sacrifice. Sacrifice. And when you hear the word sacrifice, does it sound like it's going to be easy? No. When you sacrifice time, energy, resources, you're going to feel it. And I believe that's why Solomon put that here. He says that all of us, not part of me, not most of me, but all of me, when I get to a place where I fully trust God, where everything inside of me is no longer driven by anxiety, fear, jealousy, bitterness, when none of that is at the forefront of my emotions, I am now free to be the best version that God wants me to be. What would that be like if we were able to live without anxiety, fear, bitterness, jealousy, anger? I mean, we're human. We're going to feel those things. But instead of all the time, what if we only felt those every once in a while? How different would our lives look? How different would our world of chaos look? It'd be a game changer. Because you know what comes after anxiety, fear, bitterness, jealousy, anger? You know what comes after that? Regret. We feel regret. We feel shame because of the things that we did, things that we didn't do. We feel these things. Regret will always follow. How do we avoid regret? We do and give our best. That is how. Even in failure, even the times that I've failed, if I know or knew that I gave my best, that there was nothing else that I could have physically given in that moment or mentally given in that moment, I don't feel regret. I don't. Why? Because I gave my best. So how do we give God our best? How do we do this? There are some practical things that we can do. This verse says, start giving God your finances. Start tithing. That's one of those physical things that we can do. Another is start a Bible plan. You know, we have a church Bible plan. We actually have two. We have an Old Testament, or we have the entire Bible version where we start from the Old and we do some new, and we do it all. We also have just the New Testament. And we have all of these for us. And if you want to be a part of it, it's not too late. It's only the 8th. You're only a week behind. That's super easy to catch up. But get into a Bible plan. The third thing is you can adjust your schedule. That's what I did last year. Around this time last year, a little after actually, I heard something profound. And it was so simple, and I probably heard this so many times. But it was from another pastor, and he said that if you want to experience God and you just feel like you're sitting in the murky, the mundane, you're just kind of in the middle and you're like, I'm not really feeling it, and you really want to experience God, what have you done to create room? What have you done to change your schedule so that you alter your life and you're not just doing the same thing over and over again and not changing? Because again, if you don't change anything, do you expect different results? No. What are you doing to create room for God to speak to you? And it clicked in my head that I'm like, holy cow, he's right. I just fit God in when I can. I need to create a schedule for him. I need to create time intentionality. And I started doing that more and more. You can also serve. That's how we give God our best. Serve him. Do what we can to give back to what God has given us. Today, I want to close as we start thinking about who do we choose to trust. The band's going to come back up here. And I want us to think about the idea of who do you trust? And we're going to close with communion. And for those of you at home, if you want to pause and grab some communion elements, we'd love for you to take this with us or grab it at any point during the song as well, too. That's up to you. But I wanted to close our first in-person service with communion because this is essentially our first meeting of the year, and I want to recognize what Jesus did. When he took communion with his guys up in that upper room before he died, on the night that he was going to die, or at least be arrested and betrayed, he did it with intention. It wasn't just like, well, what else do I have left on my bucket list? I want to eat dinner with my guys. That was not his reasoning. He was teaching us and showing us a way to worship that connected God's love for us and Jesus' sacrifice so that we have a future, that we can trust God. So as we get ready to grab the elements, they're over here to the side. There's some juice, there's some bread. I would love for you to grab both of those elements, come back to your seat, and I'm going to lead you in our first communion live of the year in 2023. So go ahead and grab those elements and come back to your seat.
We've seen what you can do, oh God of wonders. Your power has no end. The things you've done before, in greater measure, you will do again. And there's no prison wall that you can break through, no mountain you can move. All things are possible. And there's no broken body you can raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up, and you can light it up. Oh God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome, and you've already won. Oh God of revival, you rose in victory, and now you're seated forever on the throne. So why should my heart fear what you've defeated? And I will trust in you alone, as there's no prison wall that you can break through, no mountain you can move. All things are possible. And there's no broken body you can raise, no soul that you can save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up, and you can light it up. A God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome, and you've already won. God of revival.
So what we're doing, they call this the Eucharist. And this is a way that Jesus asked us, as followers of him, this is what he asked us to do, to remember the sacrifice that he made. And he took a piece of bread, he broke it, gave it to his disciples. He handed it to them, and he said, "This represents my body. Take this and remember what I did for you." So take and eat. Then he took a cup filled with wine, and he said, "This is going to represent my blood. Precious blood that will take away the eternal separation once and for all. So when you drink this, remember that this is my sacrifice that I freely gave to you so that you can have life. So take and drink." Let's finish that song.